everyone, my name is Josh and this is School Industry Musings, and today I'm going to be talking about the fourth episode of Dead Ringers starring Rachel Weisz, based on the 1988 film by David Cronenberg. Now this episode is the fourth episode, and in this episode we are introduced to the Mantle twins' parents, Alan and Linda Mantle, and these are basically the parents of the Mantle twins, and they are hinted at the very end of the third episode, where Greta overhears an answer machine message of Linda trying to contact her daughters, and it's through this that they're able to eventually arrange a meeting. It's because of Greta that they're able to arrange this, reunion, this big birthday surprise for them. And during this particular stay, a lot of stuff does come out, including the idea that, both Genevieve and Beverly, Beverly is carrying the child of both her and Genevieve's, and they're planning on, seeing this through to term, and they want to, have a child and start a family of their own. But Beverly has her doubts. She has this feeling that, maybe it's not going to last. Maybe she'll have a miscarriage again, like she did all the other times. And that was one of the things that really shocked me about this the first couple of episodes, is how much she actually, failed to carry the child fully to term, and she had these premature, miscarriages. And it really is horrible to watch. And there's this scene at the very beginning of the episode where she fishes a embryo out of the tub of a toilet while she's going to the loo, and that was a really horrible sequence, and I literally found myself going, oh my god, I can't believe this is something that's happening. But it's all done to service the themes of the story, which is about feminism and about the idea of what a woman will do in order to be a successful career woman, a parent, an individual almost, and carve out a life of her own. And it's explored through the relationship of these twin sisters, and it really is well done. It really does a very good job of staying true to the actual essence and themes of the original Dead Ringers, but they do give it a much needed facelift with a female perspective, kind of like in the same vein as The Midwich Cuckoos, which was a television series starring Keely Hawkes, and she basically plays a doctor who arranges a program where these psychic children are she basically sees the care of these women who are apparently pregnant with these children with special abilities, and that's a very interesting show in itself. It's based on the John Wyndham novel of the same name, and it was also that in which was adapted into a film called Village of the Damned, and this is basically a reinvention of that story. That's a good show, The Midwich Cuckoos. If you fancy checking that out, that's actually a very good series. It also does the same thing as Dead Ringers, where it takes a very male orientated story and tries to give it a different point of view, a female perspective. And it's very well utilised here, with the idea of, what will a woman do to become a mum, and try to strike this balance in her life of being very successful, very driven, very passionate career woman, but also be a successful parent, being able to, make the right decisions, try to, carve out a life of her own with her own partner, and also try to keep in touch with her sister and try to run a business, because these sisters aren't just, sisters anymore. They're now, business partners. So the fact that they're able, she's trying to figure out this idea of, trying to become a good mum, but then also trying to be a good business partner. It's a really good examination of a contrast that she may or may not be able to manage, and that's the big question throughout the course of this episode, because this is actually supported by the fact that their mum, Linda, when she first heard she was pregnant, she was very excited with her husband-to-be, Alan. She was very, enthusiastic. She was all smiles. She said, "Oh, I'm pregnant and I'm very excited." And he goes, "How do you feel?" He goes, "Oh, it's wonderful. Congratulations, darling. How are you feeling?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm actually very excited. Like, I'm really, looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be parents." And then as the episode goes on, when we go back to these flashbacks, we realise that Linda is kind of doing something which a lot of mums, I'm sure, do have at some point, where they do feel like when they give birth to babies, and in this case she gives birth to twins, she has this feeling of, oh my god, what am I doing? And what am I actually doing? Like, am I prepared for this? Am I ready for this? And this is the sort of thing that you do when you are carrying the baby. But I think when she had the babies, the shock of the birth was too traumatic for her. So it's kind of like this delayed shock and this delayed stunness that happens to her, where she can't quite believe that what she is looking at when she sees her babies in the high chair eating their food. She can't quite connect that this is actually happening. So she kind of feels like, oh my god, am I out of my element here? Do I feel like I'm ready to be a mum? And that's a very interesting thing to explore. And her husband at the very end of this arc says, yes, you are. Well, you are, ready to be a mum, and you are a very good mum, and we're going to do this together. You and me as a couple, we're going to look after these kids and make sure that they're the best damn people we can possibly make them. And I really love that. I love the fact that the father is very supportive, not just of his wife, but he's also very supportive of his daughters, who are very much, a handful, and they have issues of their own. But he does try to, be very happy with them, and try to support them in whatever way they can. Even during the scene when they're watching Genevieve's television series called Rabid, which is a reference to another David Cronenberg film called Rabid of the same name, and that's a very good film. And of course, there was a remake that was made of that, which I felt really kind of, was also good in its own right. But I digress. But yeah, this entire scene is really wonderful, because we really do get a lot of insight into how the mum is with her daughters, and how she can still be kind of a bit distant, like she should be treading very carefully, that she's walking on eggshells with her own daughters. But then there are instances where she can be very blunt, and she can just say what everyone else is thinking. And I really like those moments, because it really shows that she's trying with her daughters, but she's not afraid to say what I'm sure a lot of people would be thinking in that time. But it all sort of culminates in this very awkward dinner scene, which starts out with 2 birthday cakes for both the twins, and then a bunch of people have shown up, including a one night fling with that Eliot has picked up through her going to church after feeling guilty for potentially killing a homeless person. And I really do like that sequence, because it really shows that she is trying to make connections with people. She's trying to do what Beverly has done, which is to find someone and find her own connections outside of this seemingly codependent relationship that she's established with herself and Beverly. And that's such a good moment. And she even begins to contemplate herself. Do I want to have children? Do I want to have this life that my sister is going to have? Or am I just, again, like Linda, unbeknownst to her, unlike like Linda, she is literally having that same crisis, where she's thinking to herself, but at least, Eliot is making that contemplation now before the baby is actually growing inside of her. She's actually thinking to herself, am I actually cut out for this? Do I consider myself mother material? And that's something which I really like. And of course, there's several examples of why this theme is absolutely explored to incredible effect, where Beverly actually sees that a mum is talking about, getting rid of her baby. The baby's born, and the baby is there right in the room with them, like the dad's holding the baby, but the mum is refusing to hold her, refusing to hold this child, refusing to build up a bond or a connection with this child, because she feels like she doesn't want it. She doesn't feel like she's ready yet. She doesn't feel like she's a mum. And I really do like that fact, because a lot of dramas, or a lot of stories where they talk about pregnancy and it goes very much in depth, they don't usually address the fact that mothers sometimes don't talk about the fact that, am I ready for this? They don't actually do that, or they don't voice it a lot. And I think that's something that really is quite brave for this show to do. It really does kind of show that, yeah, they do have, moments where they probably do feel like they're not good enough, or they don't feel like they're ready to be a mum yet. But that's what I think is so intelligent, is they really do cover all the aspects of this. They cover the denial, they cover the regret, they recover they sort of, you know, cover the self-loathing, the sense that how can this little being really rely on me when I'm just such a mess? And lots of people around them are saying, look, we are good enough, because it isn't just going to be you who's doing this. It's going to be me as well. I'm going to be there. I'm going to make sure that, you know, we make this person the best person they can be, whether they are male or female. We're going to make sure this person is an absolute badass in the world today. And I absolutely love that this show really took that idea places, and it was done very effectively. And then, of course, Eliot is going to confessions, and she's going to church a lot because she feels like she killed a homeless person at the end of the last episode, so she's praying a lot. So she hooks up with this guy who's actually a father of three, or he's the father of twins, and he basically, you know, says, oh, I can now tell which one, you know, is which, depending on how they act and how they move and things like that. But I am also a single dad, so I don't know what I'm actually doing with myself. I feel lost. And she immediately begins a connection with him, an actual physical relationship. And there's that great scene in the elevator where he goes to Greta, the housekeeper, that you know, spread you made today, that was actually really nice. And she goes, oh, I'm actually quite satisfied with the idea of you actually being out of our lives for good as soon as the elevator doors open and close once more. And I actually really do like that moment, because it really shows that Greta isn't interested in this guy. There's something about him that is just very repulsive to her. So when it gets to the dinner scene, the big, you know, cake reveal, when everyone's, you know, chatting and eating, it starts to slip that, you know, Eliot is going crazy. She's become very resentful for Beverly and Genevieve's relationship, and she voices that outright, and she even lets slip that she was the reason why the two of them are together. Without her, this wouldn't have happened. And then Genevieve does a double take, like I'm sure a lot of us would do when we hear that, and she goes, Eliot, what do you mean by that? And then it clicks to her that, oh my god, I actually, you know, have slept with or kissed the twin sister of the woman who I love. And it really is quite wonderful, because I think the actress who plays Genevieve really plays it very well, because she really does. She could have very easily just turned to Beverly and just slapped her across the face, or thrown wine over her, or done something to really cause a scene. But what I really love is that Eliot doesn't even need to say anything. Like, she literally gives a look. And I really love that about both Rachel Weisz Performance and the actress who plays Genevieve Cottard. And I feel like that's such a great moment, because they just exchange looks, and that's all she needs to see in order to piece together, oh my god, I've been living a lie, and I feel very creeped out and very unclean, that I've literally just been dating two people who look the same but could very easily do stuff. And there's this very good moment where I think it was the previous episode, or was it this episode, where they're having a rap party about Genevieve's series, and she literally goes up to Beverly, thinking that Eliot thinking that she is Beverly, when in fact Beverly is next to her, but people think that her friends think that Beverly is one across from her. So they go, oh, wrong one, sorry about that, like, oh, you're in trouble now, Genevieve, and things like that. And then they have the discussion in private, like, oh, you could cut out the pretending to be Beverly shtick, Eliot, like, you're really funny, you're really a great comedian, you should go into comedy, but please stay out of our lives and stop doing this, like, it's not healthy, it's bad for us, and things like that. And I really like that Genevieve is literally trying with Eliot, but Eliot is literally being like a sport child. Again, she may be the oldest by 5 minutes, but she literally has a very bad emotional maturity where she doesn't take things very well. And it literally is personified in the way she behaves around her parents as well, because when they're watching the mini-series, she is curled up on the sofa and she snuggles up to her dad, who puts his arm around her. And yes, it's a loving dad thing, but it really gives you the impression that she's a bit of a daddy's girl, and that she can run circles around her dad and make him do anything she wants for her. And that's something that's natural, but the way Eliot plays it almost feels like she can make anything happen when it comes to her dad. Like, she can make sure that, he gives her everything, the world, jewels, anything that she wants, he would give it to her. And I think that's something that really is quite interesting in the dynamic of them. And the mum, Linda, is sort of like leaning down, like she's looking, but she's sort of bent, looking at the screen like this, like she's really kind of arched forward. And Beverly is just kind of sitting back but smiling because she's very proud of her girlfriend being in this show. And it really is a good dynamic because it really kind of feels like a very interesting portrait of this family. But after the dinner scene, she says a couple of things that really do hurt a lot of people, and Genevieve and Eliot decide to break up. And there's this really wonderful scene where Linda literally says, Beverly, you're going to be a really terrible mum because I tried with you guys and I literally felt like this is where we are at. Like, you were literally using your identities to share people and to get relationships for one or the other. And that's not right. That's very twisted. That's very, pardon my language, fucked up. So the fact that her mum is calling them out for those issues, how are you going to be when you are eventually a mum? So I'm telling you right off the bat that you're probably going to be a terrible mum because of these behaviour traits. And she doesn't say this to Eliot, which is very, very interesting because they were initially going to be the people to raise this child. So I think that's very interesting to me. But what did you think of this episode of Dead Ringers? I want to hear your thoughts. And that's all I'm going to say for this episode. I thought it was a really good episode, really interesting. It was very uncomfortable, but it was very well written, and I feel like the performances were absolutely fantastic from all the people involved in this. And I'm looking forward to, and I've been really looking forward to seeing where this goes. I've actually seen the whole mini-series, but I'm actually going to record episodes as I go. So I will be, I've done 2 today, so I might do 1 tomorrow, or I might do 1 later. So I've got a lot to say about all these episodes, and I'm looking forward to reviewing the last 2 and seeing what this show has in store and what you guys think of the show overall. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you like this video, please be sure to give it a like. And this has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings. I hope you're all having a very good day. Take care. Bye bye for now.